Hello team and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pitts. The Ukraine War breaking news update for the 6th of November 2023, evening thereof for me in the UK. I'm going to give you some news concerning some activity in the Krinky area, or at least supposedly somewhere around here on the Dnipro River, where we have seen some Ukrainian gains over the last week or two. That applies also further downstream to Pidstepny on the Dnipro River. But supposedly around Krinky this. So what has happened? Well, no report says here Russian channel Romanov has shared an image of what looks to be a Ukrainian floating transporter, PTS-2, making its way to the shores of Krinky. Such transporters can carry up to an IFE or an APC, so sort of a light vehicle compared to, say, a heavy tank. It looks like it's carrying an armored vehicle, but the type can't be identified. Certain people are now saying it's a BTR-4E. Finally, Ukrainian armor spotted on the left bank of the Dnipro River in the vicinity of Krinky. This seems to be an amphibious BTR-4E, someone says. So I don't know if that's claiming the whole thing looks like a BTR amphibious, or it's an amphibious vehicle within that carrier is more likely. Just to let you know what a PTS-2 is, it is a Soviet-tracked amphibious transport, and it can carry vehicles, as you can see from that. So that is potentially what it is, PTS-2. That does look to be something like that, to be fair. So I think that's a fair assessment from null reports there. And it could have indeed further amphibious vehicle for more minor sort of amphibious movements. That is a BTR. So that video footage, that camera shot has got people really quite excited about the possibility of mechanized equipment across the river. Now, no reports went on to say, Doom posting, a Russian channel quotes a soldier fighting near Krinky in response to the image Romanov shared earlier. Quote, Lyosha, we are with our Kalashnikovs, as if with sabers, as if with swords. They are of little use. 2 of the 5 who recorded the video for you are no longer alive. In other words, they're in a bit of trouble, the Russians in there, the ones who took that video footage. Trentelenko says here, Ukraine is moving infantry crew served heavy weapons and light amphibious vehicles across the Dnipro at Krinky. As an old UTEP bro of mine used to say, the cheese doth get binding. And this is P-Style 1-1 talking about the same thing. Ukrainians have started to transfer heavy equipment on the left bank through the bridgehead they hold in Krinky. This has been mentioned a few days ago by Russian sources, and now there is visual evidence of a BTR-4. And the quote is, along Krinky, suddenly it became clear that crests, that's the Ukrainians, were actively crossing the left bank of Dnipro and were no longer embarrassed to speak to anyone at all. All the stories about an incredibly heavy, insurmountable natural barrier in the form of a mighty river turned out to be just another myth to justify the betrayal during the surrender of Kherson. Yes, Ukrainians are already transporting even heavy equipment, and they have really created bridgeheads on the left bank, and now they have to fight hard battles there and suffer losses like a bolt from the blue, and no one could even think about it, says this source. And there's just a few more things to say about that. Trentelenko mentions this, which is sort of connected. Very nice. There are Russian Telegram channels claiming that Ukrainian boat drones with wide spectrum jammers. Now, I was talking about jammers earlier, about how there are a number of Russian drones that are falling out the sky, 300 counted by Magyar, but I don't know over what time and over what geographical region. But anyway, boat drones with wide spectrum jammers on Russian drone frequencies have cut off Russian drone and particularly Russian first-person view drone support on Dnipro's left bank. So this is really relevant to, I don't think you would try something like this without really significant electronic warfare going on at the same time. Jay in Kiev says, Russians in the Kherson front in horror watching helplessly as Ukrainian army is now pouring across the river with heavy equipment. I don't know if that's a large overstatement, pouring across the river with heavy equipment. We've seen evidence at the moment of one piece, but there is claimed to be more. Here we have that one I've just read to you, but there are others. I was told that the success of the Ukrainians with landing on the left bank in Kherson region is associated with the fact that someone leaked all our cards to them. Minefields and other engineering barriers, says another quote. And we'll then go down to Trentilenko again. When Ukraine put its left bank lodgement on the Antonivsky Bridge with such a powerful anti-drone jammer, it was fixed and ate a Russian Iskander. In other words, a Russian Iskander hit the Antonivsky Bridge area, supposedly because there's a really powerful electronic war jammer there, but powerful boat drone jammers are too mobile to get nailed by unobserved Russian armed forces artillery or an Iskander. So that seems to be a fairly clever way of getting around the problem of setting up electronic warfare in static positions, have them roaming in boats that are much harder to hit. Of course, you would normally hit boats with first-person view drones, but if they have drone jammers on those boats, then of course the ability to hit those boats is somewhat diminished. That's really good use of boats, I would have thought. Trentilenko continues, and we just saw Ukraine debut a new longer-range 30-kilometer, perhaps a first-person view drone. We know that there's a 22-kilometer hit has taken place. First-person view drone capability to cover this Krinky landing. Ukrainian first-person view battlefield air interdiction BAI is arriving. This is, I think, pretty significant and certainly something to watch. We've talked, I mean, I've talked to you long enough about it's all about being able to get equipment across the river, and how they do that is going to be interesting to see. I don't think it's going to be a case of building pontoon bridges that are static, because I think they're just too easy targets. But if you are successfully drone jamming in this whole area, then easy targets is more difficult, because particularly low-flying drones are going to be thin, not thin on the ground, thin in the air. I mean, you might be able to get sort of higher up drones being able to spot things from a further distance, but I still think even with drone jamming, you wouldn't want static bridges. So something like this PTS-2, and I've talked about similar ones. France gave some really massive bits of kit that you can fit much bigger, more equipment on board. Then you've got those moving kind of pontoon ferry sort of things that aren't static, but they can ship stuff across on them. So there are lots of options, or at least several options. And then amphibious vehicles themselves, how easy is it for them to get across the Dnipro? I don't know. So it could be an interesting week ahead with regard to starting to see more Ukrainian vehicles. But of course, you know, when you only have, I mean, there's not going to be a massive amount, despite what some of those Russian quotes say. They might end up being fairly easy pickings for Russian artillery or first-person view drones, which is why it's important to have that electronic warfare working efficiently across on the left bank, as well as covering the river itself. So it'll be interesting to see how wide-ranging this electronic warfare drone jamming capability is. But anyway, I thought that's significant enough to do just a quick breaking news video for you. We'll keep an eye on that over the next few days. Anyway, take care. Thank you. Toodle pips.